Hello, everybody. My name is Samuel Gill. I'm from East State University. I grew up in Ville Platte, Louisiana, otherwise known as God's country. I am very, very excited to be here. Grew up in a small town, attend a small university, but I have very big dreams. I have very big dreams, and I'm very connected with the students. In my second term as student body president in McNeese, and I have some experience under my belt now. I'm not just a new president. I'm just trying to not I don't have to figure things out anymore. I'm ready to take action and move on things. And I'm very excited to be on the Board of Regents because that's what we do here. We make progress for higher education here in Louisiana. And I'm very, very excited to be a part of this agenda, to give y'all my thoughts, to be the voice of the students because I'm the mouthpiece for all of the students, just like as we all are, but I have more of the grassroots experience as well in that field to make sure that we have all of that adequate representation. And so I'm absolutely thrilled to be here. It was very unexpected that I ran and ended up getting Board of Regents, I will say, but some of the most unexpected things are some of the best things in our lives. So I'm very excited to be here. Thank you all for having me, and I'm ready for a great year.
So they can hear you. First up, the Finance Committee, Regent Seal, please call that to order.
Thank you, sir. I'll ask for a roll call for the Finance Committee now.
Yes, sir. Regent Solomon, Regent Seal,
Here.
Regent Creed,
Here.
Regent David,
Here.
Regent Levy, Regent May, Regent Williams Brown, LCTCS representative, Supervisor Warner, Supervisor Tarver, UL Systems representative. You have a quorum.
We will now move to item 3, which is to review and approve the results of fiscal year 2023-24 operating budget distribution. Matthew, next presentation, please.
Yes, sir. So I will provide you all an overview of the legislative action for the current year FY23 and FY24 for higher education, with focus on state funds, which is state general funds and statutorily dedicated funds. Overall, I'm happy to report that once again, I get to say that this is the largest base increase in funding for higher education in the state of Louisiana. Between the 2 years, FY23 and FY24 during session, it was $184.1 million in state fund increases. 19.7 of that is for the current year, and 164.4 is for FY24. In addition to being the largest base increase in higher education's history, this budget also fully funds the TOPS program, Foster Scholars, and ties with the largest increase for GO grants in program history. So for FY23, it was a $19.7 million increase. A few highlights from that. So there was a $25 million appropriation to the Board of Regents for deferred maintenance for the colleges and universities, together with money that was included in HB2, the capital outlay bill. This gets us to $50 million, which is the same amount we received last year, which is, again, the most since 2008. So we're very happy with the deferred maintenance money we received. We also received additional dollars for cybersecurity protection, some campus safety assessments that Regents will help conduct on behalf of the institutions, and additional dollars for LumCon for equipment for the new building that they'll be taking ownership of next fiscal year. There was also almost a $35 million reduction in TOPS in the current year. Majority of that was due to a decrease in student participation, which we've discussed in prior months. And across the systems, LSU received just under $21 million, the Southern system at $4.8 million, UL system $2.7 million, and LCTCS at $1.4 million. So again, these are funds that will be spent throughout the rest of this year through June 30th for specific needs. So moving into FY24, the 164 million, 125 million is state general fund appropriations. The first 8 items on the chart, faculty and staff pay, specialized institutions, mandated cost, formula institutions, Go grants, cyber, loss fund, LUMCON. These were all adjustments included in the governor's recommended executive budget. Happy to say that all of those adjustments made it through session and are built into our base. And in addition to that, we received funding for various initiatives at Board of Regents. 2.3 million of that is for there's a new Patriot Scholars program for National Guard enlisted enlistments. Among LSU, there was additional money for. Let me get my list because there's a lot. Let's see. For graduate assistantships to fund more of those, energy transition platform, a student record system, and then additional improvements at the Health Science Center in New Orleans for security, faculty recruitment at Pennington, and a few other smaller pieces across the system. For the Southern system, there was adjustments for $3 million at SUNO for academic programming, 2.8 million for the Southern Ag Center, 1.5 million for the board to increase capacity there, and 1.3 million for Southern Law. Among the UL system, there was 23 million placed at UL Lafayette for expanding research and development, vaccine partnerships, and a statewide data system, which will allow Louisiana to now have a longitudinal data system, which we're very excited about, and then additional increases at McNeese. And then for for the LCTCS, there was a $5 million increase directed to the system office for justice involved education, $1.8 million to Delgado, and $300,000 to Suella. In addition to that, we have the decreases of non-recurring adjustments of $12.5 million and the TOPS adjustments of $59 million, which is some of it is due to a swap in funding sources through the TOPS fund, and about $23 million is due to program participation declines. And let's see. So one of the biggest one was dual enrollment, to expand dual enrollment across the state. We requested $25 million for that. That was not funded. We did request $80 million to expand master plan initiatives for all the institutions to align to the master plan with workforce. That was $80 million. That was not funded. The original increase for faculty and staff pay was $75 million, and we received half of that. So those were the big ones that were not funded. All righty. Let's see. Let me find my place. Okay. The chart. Yes, the chart above is the total operating budget that was appropriated to higher education for FY24, and you'll see the 1.38 billion in state general fund, which will be distributed among the systems and institutions. I do want to note some adjustments that we've had over the last 8 years that I think are noteworthy. Overall, state general fund increases for higher education since FY17 have been $465 million. This includes increases to the formula and specialized institutions by $165 million, TOPS funding by $142 million, faculty increases by $89 million, Go grant funding by $44 million, and Title IX funding by $5 million. Just a show of where we were 8 years ago and where we are now, and we were in a much better fiscal position. And so with that, senior staff recommends that the committee approve the funding recommendations for higher education for FY 2023, 2024, And additionally, staff is requesting permission to make adjustments among institution within the systems as the law permits.
You've heard the recommendation of staff. Is there a motion? So moved. It moved, and who seconded? Moved and seconded. All in favor, signify by aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. The motion passes. And you can go home and tell your local banker that your vote was required on a $3.442 billion budget. Your banker, like my banker, will be surprised. Go ahead, continue.
There is no other business to come before the committee.
Well, what are you going to do for your encore next year?
I hope to be back and say the same thing. It's pretty nice when it's on repeat to just say, this is the largest increase. This is the largest increase.
We hope so too.
Yes.
All right, is there a motion to adjourn? Been moved, is there a second to adjourn? Is there any objection? Without objection, we are adjourned. Thank you very much.
All right. Thank you all.
I'm sorry. I'd like to call the Legislative Committee to order. Ms. Golden, will you call the roll, please? Here.
Here?
Here.
Here.
LSU representative, thank you. Southern representative, UL system representative. We have a quorum.
Thank you. We'll now move to item number 3, legislative update. The floor is yours.
Thank you so much. Good afternoon, everyone. As Regent May indicated, I'm going to give you a recap of the 2023 regular legislative session and go through our priorities and some other bills that we've been tracking. As far as all of our 2023 Regents legislative priorities, all of them passed, yay. Starting with Governor's military and military-friendly and veterans campus. That's now been signed into law. It's Act 53. It was HB 72 by Representative Brass and Senator Foyle. And this one authorized the Board of Regents to establish governor military-friendly designation to recognize higher levels of excellence in providing support to military and veteran populations on campuses, and also provided for changes in the renewal period from 1 to 2 years with interim reports to the Board of Regents. Next, power-based violence, that's also been signed into law, Act 211, but was Senate Bill 202 by Senator Barrow. This one revised current power-based violent laws to add for prompt reporting timeframes for execution of criminal justice MOUs between each of the campuses and the criminal justice agencies in their jurisdiction. It also clarifies training requirements for employees and ensures continued coordination of campus climate surveys with public post-secondary management boards and stakeholders. Regents Board meetings, Act 6. This was HB 6 by Representative Hughes. This initially we asked to allow for the Board of Regents to conduct its first meeting of the year anytime in January, thus allowing regents the flexibility to schedule all of their meetings at the same time the month of the full year. This bill was amended to also extend to both the Southern University system as well as the UL system. So it includes Board of Regents, UL system, and the Southern University system. Pertaining to the educator workforce, with HCR 17 with Representative Mincy, this is pertinent to the Teacher Recruitment, Recovery, and Retention Task Force. This extended the sunset date of that task force from July 13th, 2023 to July 13th of 2025. So we got an additional 2 years with the task force. With teacher reciprocity, HB 472 by Representative Mincy, as amended with this bill, this allows for in-state military teacher reciprocity with respect to spouses and military teacher personnel for out-of-state personnel to be able to teach. With teacher certification, that was Senate Bill 197 by Senator Peacock. This was a pretty lengthy bill, and we are still working through amendments. However, this teacher certification cleanup bill amended many statutes regarding to teacher certification process. One new provision allows for a person with a bachelor's degree from an accredited post-secondary education institution to teach in a shortage area at a secondary school using a provisional certificate. And if that person has graduated with at least a 2.5 average on a 4.0 scale and has passed the content knowledge exam. Continuing with the educator workforce, Senate Bill 81 now signed into law as Act 99 by Senator McMath. This is the Associate Educator Program bill. This allows individuals with associate degrees to teach in a content area related to that participant's associate degree, provided that they are enrolled in a 4-year college teacher preparation program, they're age 25 and older, and it prohibits the participant from teaching in a class for students with exceptionalities unless it's a class for gifted or talented students. And then lastly, under the educator workforce is HR 190 by Representative Barbara Freiberg. And this is a study to look at teacher pathways. This one requests the Department of Education in consultation with Bessie to study pathways into the teaching profession. Other bills requiring Board of Regents involvement or implementation, LA First, Senate Bill 205 by Senator Cortez. This is for the Board of Regents to establish and maintain Louisiana's foundational integrated research system for transformation. The National Guard Patriot Scholarship Program, HB 485, that Matthew actually referenced a little bit earlier. This creates the Louisiana National Guard Patriot Scholarship Program to be administered by LOSFA to cover the cost of mandatory fees for members attending Louisiana's public post-secondary education institutions. Affordable Textbook Pilot Program, HB 644 by Representative LaFleur. This creates the Affordable Digital Textbook and Learning Material Subscription Pilot Program to be developed and implemented by the Board of Regents. HCR 5 by Representative Nichols, States Articulation and Transfer Process. This requests the Board of Regents to conduct a study relative to the state's articulation and transfer process with respect to career and technical education courses. HR 101 by Representative Eccles, also with respect to state's articulation and transfer process. This requests the Board of Regents to conduct a study relative to the state's articulation and transfer process with respect to high school students who complete career and technical education courses and earned industry-based credentials. Senate Concurrent Resolution 37 by Senator McMath, College Career Readiness Outcomes. This requests Bessie and the Board of Regents to publish certain information annually relative to college and career readiness outcomes. Additional studies, physician shortage, HCR 83. This one requests the representative from the Board of Regents to sit on a task force to study, identify, and make recommendations to address the specialist physician shortage in the state. HR 174 by Representative Freeman. This is with respect to prison education programs. This requests a member of the Board of Regents to sit on a task force to study the educational programs in the prisons and jails of this state. With respect to financial aid eligibility, HB 327 by Representative Seabaugh. This extends TOPS to children of parents living overseas. Senate Bill 120 by Senator White. With respect to the MJ Foster cap, this eliminates the separate allocations between public and proprietary schools. Senate Bill 204 by Senator Hewitt. This pertains to MJ Foster changes. It provides several changes to MJ Foster Award, such as applying the award before any federal, state, and institutional aid, that it's applied and it only counts for the first semester, but limits the award to tuition, fees, and mandatory books and instructional materials costs. And then several other bills that we have looked into as well, HB 320 by Representative Turner as it pertains to nursing education. This permits a nursing student who completes a course in fundamentals of nursing offered by a practical or registered nurse program to register as a certified nursing aide without having to complete a separate certified nursing training or competency evaluation program. Senate Bill 201 by Senator Hewitt pertains to the open meetings law. This allows for state advisory bodies and task forces to meet via electronic means, subject to certain restrictions. However, this is not applicable to Board of Regents meetings. And then lastly, Senate Bill 191 by Senator Smith, promotional agreements prohibition. This prohibits any public post-secondary education institution from entering into promotional agreements with gaming entities. And with that, that is the end of the legislative portion. And those are the bills that we were tracking.
Thank you. Members, any questions?
I don't have a question, but I do have a comment. I want to thank the team. As you know, the legislative session is quite a lift. And we work collaboratively across the systems and institutions, but I really am grateful to Bree and Uma and Doreen for leading the charge. We had a lot of ground to cover, as you know, this session, just a lot of issues, offense and defense. And this team did a phenomenal job. All of the board members, some of you were asked to help us make calls and to advocate and to provide information, and you were at the ready to help us to do that. And so you don't have a second year historic budget and success with bills, and also success with not moving bills that would be harmful to the education process without a very big tent. And so I just wanted to say I am grateful to this team for their good work, and certainly grateful to the governor and House and Senate leadership, which we will miss tremendously, for their phenomenal work and advocacy for higher education.
Yeah. And certainly the entire board joins you in thanking the team for that. I know it takes a tremendous amount of work and long hours and lots of attention to that. And also thank you for the staff that prepared you for all that. So great stuff. Is there a motion to adjourn?
I guess I have one comment too,
Okay.
because in my limited role this session, I saw the team and particularly Commissioner Reed working their tails off, and the proof is in the pudding and how successful y'all were. So thank you for all that you did. And I guess we'll add too, since we're talking about the legislative committee, that the Senate did confirm all those who were up for nomination. So great job there too. I witnessed some of those interviews, and y'all gave some great answers, including Regent Aubrey, who was very popular. He was a popular person there. But sorry about that, Regent May.
Right. So we had a motion by Aubrey. Do we have a second? By Regent Sterling. Thank you. Any discussions? We are adjourned. Thank you.
All right, next up, the Facilities and Property Committee, Regent Lee.
Call the meeting to order. Mr. Herring, would you do the roll call?
Yes, sir. Chair Levy,
Yes.
Vice Chair Weil, Regent Creed, Regent Ewing, Regent Meir, Regent Pryor, Regent Gill,
Here.
LCTCS representative, Supervisor Werner, Supervisor Tarver, UL representative. We have a quorum.
Thank you. We now move to item 3, the consent agenda. Chris?
Yes, sir. The consent agenda contains 8 small capital projects that were approved since we last met. I'll be happy to answer any questions. Otherwise, we recommend approval of the consent agenda.
Any questions? You've heard the recommendation to approve the small capital projects as presented by Chris. Is there a motion to approve all of those projects on the consent agreement? Is there any discussion or further questions? If not, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Chris, if you do the 959 projects.
Yes, sir. We have two 959 projects we'll take up under one motion. The first one is to replace the campus data center at Health Science Center, New Orleans. This is a $2 million project that will be funded with self-generated revenues derived from physician leases and indirect cost allocations from grants. The new center will improve security and environmental controls for new server equipment while occupying a smaller footprint within the same building. They're going to construct a new location on another floor of the Resource Center building while they keep the current site operational until that one's complete, at which point the current location will be demolished. The second one is from the University of Louisiana Lafayette related to their New Iberia Research Center. This is a $4.7 million project funded with self-generated revenues derived from the center's research and breeding activities. This is the non-human primate center located in New Iberia. This project will construct a new 14,000 square foot building, which will house cage wash equipment and additional housing spots for the primates. The approval for this project is contingent upon ULS approval during their June 22nd meeting due to the timing of everything and the fact that we don't meet in July. We're bringing this one to the board this month. I'd be happy to answer any questions. Otherwise, we recommend approval of both 959 projects.
Folks, you've heard the recommendation of staff. Is there a motion to approve? Is there a second? Any questions? Are there any objections? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay. Motion passes. Now, our third-party projects.
Yes, sir. This is a project at ULM to make athletics improvements across the campus. It's a traditional lease-back project whereby they'll lease the locations to ULM Facilities, Inc., which is their 501c3 foundation that will be responsible for the improvements. Upon completion, the sites will be leased back to the institution until the debt service is satisfied. This project will replace the turf within Malone Stadium, install video boards for football and basketball. They are also installing LED lighting at football, baseball, and softball, and upgrading the beach volleyball facilities. The total project cost is $6 million, which includes all the improvements, the cost of the bond issuance, refunding a previous bond issue from several years ago, and the debt service will be satisfied from a variety of students' self-assessed fees to cover the debts. Again, like the previous ULS project, this one is contingent upon their board approval on June 22nd, and I'd be happy to answer questions.
Your recommendation? Is,
I have a question. Regarding the student fees, are those fees that are pre-existing or are those new fees?
Pre-existing.
Okay.
any
That's
further
it.
questions? Do we have a motion? Do we have a second?
Second.
Is there any further discussion or questions? If not, all those in favor by signifying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. That motion passes. HB2 update, Chris.
Yes, sir. As Matt mentioned earlier, this year was another banner session for higher ed in terms of capital outlay. We've received the highest, largest appropriation to higher education ever, made up of Priority 1, Priority 2, and cash funding. Again, Priority 1 and 2 can become cash during a given fiscal year. It represents $492 million in total from all sources, which is a 58% increase from the previous fiscal year. There's 118 projects in the bill. And as Matt mentioned too, $51 million for deferred maintenance. You can see a breakdown of the number of projects by system. And I would be happy to answer any questions on a specific project or an institution. Otherwise, this is informational only.
Are there any questions? Yes.
After this spate of deferred maintenance is completed, what would be your guesstimate of our deferred maintenance situation across the system?
I would say it stays about steady. Even with 50 million we've received the last 2 years and 25 million the year prior to that, most of the time it can barely keep up with the rate of decline to a lot of the facilities. A lot of our campuses have older facilities with aging systems, internal systems. So it's really just helping them keep pace with the current deficit.
Is there an accrual number in your mind that represents the current balance after this funding spate of deferred maintenance?
Well, we're around $1.8 billion, and again, I think it would remain about $1.8 million.
1.8 billion.
Billion with a B. Now, I will say we do have multiple campuses that within that P1, P2, and cash money, as the result of doing these projects and getting those completed, it will also eliminate deferred maintenance issues on major renovation projects and, opening new facilities and demolishing the current ones.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Yes, ma'am.
I do want to add to that, because when we were in Senate Finance Committee, we did have a senator who asked, how much do the capital outlay projects help to eliminate the deferred maintenance? And so they've asked us to make sure there's a process by which legislators are aware, not only is this project important for a better educational experience for students, but what's the impact on deferred maintenance? Regent Seal is absolutely right. You don't eliminate or even put a dent in a $1.8 billion deferred maintenance problem with 50 million at a time. So we're going to have some conversations about what more we can do. Last year we surveyed to see what the campuses were doing, and they and their operating dollars are about matching that with what they're receiving from the state, because they just can't wait for the state. But as you know, it becomes more and more expensive. The longer you defer the maintenance, the more expensive it becomes. And so while we're doing our victory lap, and I'm very excited about our success, we do need to really think about what are we going to do in terms of trying to bring forward some bigger solutions around deferred maintenance on our campuses.
And I know it's earmarked to certain projects. Is there some flexibility within the systems, or it's earmarked specifically for those projects?
Well, the deferred maintenance pool itself is more, I guess, generic per se. It's a lump sum appropriation, and then we rely on the systems to, tell us these are our top 10 priorities system wide, and we use that as a starting basis. So it is fluid in that sense. It's not earmarked to a specific project like a typical capital outlay project would be.
How's our LSU library issue?
I don't know where the funding came up to this year, that one specifically. That is on planning phase, and anxious to.
We're getting started.
That building comes down, a nice chunk off the permits.
Yeah.
That and the science building as well, which is funded with our P3 partnership there.
But that's still number one. The library still.
Absolutely. Libraries are number one.
All right. Good deal.
Athletic facilities are down the line.
Okay. Are there further questions of Chris?
I like what you said, library was the number one.
Yes, sir.
And the library is a raising of the library and it going somewhere else, right? Okay.
Whereas the science building renovations often involve a lot of departments on the A&S campus specifically, but the science building and library are our top two priorities. Athletics facilities,
Good, good. Thank you, Mayor. Is there any other business to come before the committee? Chris, do you have anything further?
No, sir.
Do I have a motion to adjourn? Thank you, sir. Second?
Question.
Yes, sir.
If you had an update about the Grambling Library situation?
I actually do. I started to throw it out. So the water testing was conducted not long after Mark Moses and Dr. Henderson were here to speak to you guys. The testing showed extensive issues to where all the glass doors and windows are going to have to be removed. A lot of deep bricking, probably relocation of weep holes. So they have a meeting tomorrow. The architect and the contractors are coming to Baton Rouge to discuss with the director of FP&C possible solutions moving forward without involving the sureties and the bonding company. So by our next board meeting, I should have hopefully an update on the plan to go forward.
Very good.
And the southern property that Dr. Tarver mentioned at that last meeting, that was unfinished?
Yeah, and I think if I remember correctly, that was, we were confused on the two we were talking about, and I don't recall, Regent Pryor, exactly. The new Welcome Center. So that one is being planned right now. It's under design, and they received some additional money for a second phase of that via capital outlay. We have some demo money that's has been allocated to remove the tennis courts and Lacumba Cage when you drive on the campus. I believe that's the site of the Welcome Center. So all of that should be moving forward.
All right, we have further questions? Further comments?
I just want to add one thing. Regent Pryor reminded me not to drop on this. We had a pretty robust conversation about the Grambling Library, but a bigger conversation about architect selection and the process. And so I do want to make sure that we collect higher education's comments for consideration in the new administration about how do we improve on this? And if there are individuals who are falling significantly short, should they be taken completely out of the queue in terms of the ability to bid on higher education projects? There was also legislation, I believe, Chris, to allow for third-party project managers, if you will, because FP&C just has more work than they could ever possibly get their arms around. That legislation did pass, and so I do anticipate some of our institutions sort of going in along with the third party to try to help manage those projects. So again, I think that will be helpful, but I did want to make sure to note that you all gave some good feedback that we are collecting to make sure we share about how to improve the process overall.
Thank you. What was that ULM project we just approved? Was that a low bid project, or did they choose who they wanted to be the contractor?
They have
And the
flexibility since that one is run through their 501c3.
I didn't hear you.
They have some flexibility since that's run through their foundation.
So they didn't do the low bid.
They
project.
may, that's an option. They can also issue an RFQ and go through that way and have folks respond via that route. I'm not sure exactly which method they're using on that one, but I can find out.
Good. Well, my point is, we have to, all the colleges need to be, if they don't know, we need to share where they can pick the best project coordinators, the best contractors, and not get stuck in the low bid system. I'm pretty sure that a ULM's not going to be using the lowest bid system and get a crappy turf and crappy athletic facilities as LSU's not going to do with their library. But Southern and Grambling have gotten stuck in these situations. So I'm going to be focused like a laser in my next term on spreading the wealth around of the knowledge of how to better make these projects at all the universities.
And Regent Pryor, I will add that if it's funded, if it's a state funded project with bond money or general fund cash, they have to follow the low bid process. It's when they go through a foundation that they have more flexibility.
Darren?
Right. Or joint ventures.
Yes, I was just going to reiterate what Chris was saying. The third-party projects, they have options, so they're actually able to select who they want compared to the state projects, and that's really the difference. But I think it's important for us to still be vigilant.
Okay, good.
Can we get some more information on that new legislation? Not today, but its impact and how schools will have more of that flexibility. And then I want to thank you, Commissioner, and Regent Creed for touring. I heard that you all, since the last meeting, have made a visit to see all the beautiful library as it is, though it has issues, and really just to show that local community support to the community and that university that we go make it right. So thank you.
Further questions or comments?
I do have one, and this is, I guess, from a Minnie's perspective, but it applies. From a natural disaster standpoint, regarding insurance recoveries with FEMA, does that go through the system or Regents or both?
And it usually goes through facility planning and the Office of Risk Management.
Okay.
Thank you. Further questions or comments? We have a motion and a second. Is there any opposition to adjourning? Hearing none, we are adjourned. Thank you, Chris.
Yes, sir.
I'll go ahead and call the Academic Student Affairs Committee together. Dr. Denley. There he is. Hide behind the sign. All right, there we go. Can you call the roll, please? Thank you.
Regent David.
Here.
Regent Finley. Here. Regent Creed. Here. Regent Meir. Present. Regent Solomon. Regent Sterling. Here. Regent
Here.
LCTCS representative. LSU representative. Here. Thank you. Southern representative. Here. UL representative. You have a quorum, sir.
Thank you, Dr. Denley. I guess now we'll go to item 3, the consent agenda.
Thank you. Yeah, so on our consent agenda today, we have routine staff approvals that consist of several new certificates, a few CIP code and name changes, and requests to offer programs partially or fully online, a very standard set of approvals. We also have this month's progress report list that will round out the year's assessment of new programs on an ongoing basis. And then our third item is an initial application for institutional participation in SARA. So for those who are new to the Board of Regents, SARA is the State Authorization Reciprocity Agreement. Just trips right off the tongue. That's why we call it SARA. So this is a national collaborative that allows institutions to be able to offer online courses and programs across multiple states. And so we in Louisiana have been part of the SARA Reciprocity Agreement, I think right from the very beginning. And to date, this board has approved initial SARA application for 38 institutions. Today's on the consent agenda, Bridges Christian College has submitted their initial SARA application. They are an accredited online college located in New Orleans that provides theological degrees and biblical studies and ministry degrees. And so senior staff recommend approval of the items on the consent agenda.
Thank you, Dr. Denley. Committee members, you've heard the recommendation. Is there a motion to approve the items on the consent agenda? Moved by Regent Finley, and who's the second by? Regent Creed. Any discussion or questions? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. The ayes have it. The motion passes. Now moving on to academic programs. Dr. Denley, I understand we have a special guest here today.
We do, and actually I'd love it if they could come up and join me at the table. So Chancellor Tinney and her team are here, and as they're coming up, I'll introduce the first of our academic programs, which is an AAS in wind energy technology. So just this last fall, Louisiana's H to the Future project was led by Greater New Orleans Development Foundation and was awarded $50 million by the U.S. Economic Development Administration to develop new clean energy clusters across wind energy across South Louisiana. And very happy to say that Nunez was one of the 25 partners in that project. So this new degree would prepare students for immediate employment as wind turbine technicians, which I believe would be unique in this state and pretty much unique across the country. And so I'm really excited to be able to hand over to Chancellor Tinney can tell us all about the project. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Denley. And thank you, Commissioner Reed. Thank you, board members, for having the opportunity to move this program forward. We are very excited to bring this to the table. And I want to acknowledge the team that I have behind me at U.S. Community College. For the last year and a half, we have been networking, collaborating, and researching what the best program was to bring forward for our state as an opportunity. And what you have in front of you is a program that meets both the workforce needs in developing and retaining employees here in the state for wind energy. As you know, the 20th century has been fueled by fossil fuels, and in the 21st century, they're looking at clean technologies. And wind is the #1 renewable source in the clean technology. So in the programs that are offered, we have workforce credentials, but we also are asking for a credit pathway because it opens the door for open enrollment for anyone to seek a high demand, high wage job in the wind turbine industry. So the wind turbine salaries actually range anywhere from 58,000 upwards to six figures of 99,000 plus and growing. There is a burgeoning need for these professionals. And by 2030, they anticipate 60,000 technicians that are needed to supply our business and industry partners. The program for the credit pathway terminates with an associate's degree in wind energy, but our partners at the four-year institution would have an opportunity for upward mobility of the student to earn a four-year degree as well. So those conversations are happening, and we feel that currently, similar to COVID, where there was a need for health professionals, it woke up society and the job market for the necessity for training those individuals. And that same phenomenon is happening currently in the energy sector. There are 70,000 windmills in the United States currently. There's an anticipation of 68% growth by 2030. And most of that growth is explosive in offshore wind. And Louisiana is ranked number 4 in terms of potential offshore wind. So the conversations are happening where our business and industry partners are exploring the R&D and the contracts in the Gulf of Mexico in order to build, maintain, and operate floating and offshore wind. Most of the DNA from our state has already produced the commercial offshore wind farm currently at Block Island, and has also worked for the maintenance and construction in Europe. And so understanding the needs have allowed us to position this program so that it is a GWO certified program. We have partnered with a company in Norway called Energy Innovation. So the program is completely GWO certified, and that's the distinction for this particular program. There are other wind turbine programs in the United States. This program would be distinctive because it would come with the GWO certification, which means that someone who has the ability to maintain, repair, or operate a wind turbine would be able to get on a vessel to do that in an offshore capacity. And that is a unique distinction. Similar to what we learned through maritime workforce. And I've had the pleasure and privilege and sometimes frustration in the workforce conversations because of needing the Coast Guard certifications as we develop programs. This program proactively engaged a business and industry partner so that we are providing that on the forefront. And as you consider this program, I will say that it is a very nice complement to what we already do at Nunez. Much of what is embroiled within the program has welding, electrical, mechanical applications, so the skills are transferable to other industries, as well as to the fact that Nunez has the only aerospace manufacturing program in the state of Louisiana. And we have been very successful in providing employees and our graduates to our partner at Boeing to build SLS, to fuel Artemis. And I have every confidence that our students will be able to build, maintain, and repair wind turbines. And the goal is that when you enter into St. Bernard Parish, which is also part of God's country, that there will be a wind turbine, which has already been committed to our college, that we can paint teal and put our college logo on. As you go through the corridor, you will see that we will be at the center of an energy hub that is providing clean technology for our state and for our nation.
Well, thank you so much. Any questions for Dr. Tinney or her team?
Just a comment that, it's programs like this that allow Louisiana to continue to be a leader in wind, offshore wind. As you noted, they were leaders in the Block Island. This is about creating an industry in Louisiana, not a project in Louisiana. Those are the steps you take. So I applaud you for that. Thank you.
Thank you. Regent Finley, I saw you had your hand up too.
Yeah, so we've heard about wind energy before, years before. Other countries have done it, wind excitement at one point. What makes this time different? Is it the offshore aspect of it? What's different about the push for wind energy now?
It truly is. The offshore capacity is growing, and as I said, it's quite explosive. But additionally, in fast forwarding to the technologies that they are using for research and design, Mishu facility, which is where we partner for our aerospace, is also the site of wind technology, research and design. LM Wind and Gulf Wind are actually partners of ours. We've been at the table so that we can hear what the needs are, ranging from maintenance operations to polymer science. And so the program that we're bringing forward is one, as I said, that's been researched so that we would have the ability to truly meet the needs of what is necessary to support this industry growth.
My question is, what are the approximate dimensions of the turbines that are being conceived and built now? I remember something like 110-foot blades.
They actually have been researching design to close to towards 500 feet in design. They are manufacturing, currently, there are contracts that are manufacturing brand new vessels through companies such as Edison Schwess to be able to transport the blades and the turbines that are necessary to provide the energy. The questions that often come up are about hurricanes in the Gulf and are they able to sustain hurricanes, and all of that research and design has led to floating platforms as well that are movable. But we also learned that there are quite forceful winds on the northeast that blow through, and research and design is in support of the potential of Louisiana, which had us ranked as 4th. So the work is here and it is continuing in our area.
Regent Levy?
Chancellor, what the collaboration with LumCon is going on in this regard?
We have worked with LumCon in the maritime conversation,
Right.
and this is another opportunity for us to be able to engage as a consortium. I do wholeheartedly believe that this industry will require a collaboration between the community colleges, our four-year partners, as well as an opportunity for our K-12 partners for dual enrollment so that we can start a pipeline of students who will have opportunities to continue to move upward in search of a career in the energy sector.
Very exciting. Congratulations.
So it's not going to surprise you that in due course, we will be recommending this program for approval.
I feel really good about your chances.
But we might need a site visit.
Yes. Thank you so much. It's so fun to see this type of innovation. And Regent Gill, you'll see this is a fun board to be on, because when earlier in the day broadband comes up, you have the president of AT&T to comment on it. And here we're talking about energy, and you have the president of energy here to talk about it. So it's pretty fun to have this. But Nunez and Dr. Tenney, amazing what y'all are doing. It's fun to see the excitement and the innovation, and to have a unique program that doesn't exist anywhere else in the country. So thank you so much. Any other questions from anybody else? Y'all have heard we have one more thing to talk about.
Do I have one more degree to present? And thanks so much.
Thank you so much, Dr. Tenney and your team.
Yes, thank you.
So the other program today is at South Louisiana Community College, and it's an associate degree in health studies. So this program is really designed to help students enter the healthcare space. So it is a doorway degree that on the one hand allows students to go through the prerequisites to enter an RN program or a health services administration program at a four-year institution, but also is a gateway to being able to begin in initial frontline positions in the healthcare space. It is not going to surprise you there at South Louisiana Community College that they have many, many, many more students who are interested in being part of the healthcare space than they can ever admit into their selective programs. And many of those students currently end up in a general associate's degree. And so this degree has been specifically created that rather than being a general associate's degree, instead being a specifically tailored degree to allow students, as I say, to move into all kinds of different ways as an entry level into an entry degree into the healthcare space. So yeah, with that, happy to answer any questions about that degree. Yes, ma'am.
Is this program intended, I guess, to go down the clinical track, the business track or kind of a little bit of both for those individuals? It is an alternative, I understand that, but is the content directing them in one side or the other?
So it actually allows, as you say, it is a very general purpose and very flexible degree. So it allows, and they've already really created several 2+2 degrees with local four-year institutions. So it allows people to, if they are interested in, for instance, entering a four-year nursing program, then this program kind of gives them a more competitive advantage to get into that four-year nursing program. Or they could tailor it instead, say they want to go more into the administration side, they can tailor the curriculum to be more competitive getting into that program at the four-year space. Or, of course, it is an associate degree in health studies that would allow you perhaps to begin just an initial job in the healthcare space.
Thank you.
Sense? Yes, thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah. So with that, senior staff recommends both of those wonderful new programs.
All right, Regents, and committee members, you've heard the recommendation. Is there a motion to approve these two academic programs? Move from Regent Gill, a second from Regent Seal. Any further discussion or questions? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. Motion passes. Congratulations. Yes. All right, our next item to review, and y'all got a preview of it earlier today, a good preview of it. So we know our friends from Bessie are very excited about this one. An addition of choice modality to Academic Affairs Policy 2.22, which Dr. Denley refers to as a new flavor of dual enrollment. Dr. Denley, can you please proceed with this?
A new addition to the Baskin and Robbins of dual enrollment. So, so we will. So as I explained earlier, so this new kind of dual enrollment, and in the policy, we really are redefining what dual enrollment is, because as things currently stood, and in our policy, dual enrollment was defined to be a situation where the student must receive a grade in both, and it must be included in their collegiate record. Instead, we are now defining dual enrollment to also encompass collegiate experience, where a student takes that collegiate learning experience, and then at the end of that learning experience would have the option to choose or to not choose for that collegiate grade to go on to their collegiate learning experience. I think you're right. I really was gratified to hear the excitement from the Bessie board this morning, as we have had discussions, and there have been many, as you might imagine, both with university and college leaders, but also with the K-12 leaders. This is, I think, really well needed to allow students to have the flexibility to have an experience that allows them to learn at that collegiate level, but without the risks that can sometimes accompany that perhaps for some may be too great a risk to allow them to be part of it. So with that, happy to answer any questions about the choice modality, but certainly recommend approval of that.
And Dr. Denley, thank you again. I remember Collis and I being so excited when you were coming to join this team over here at Regents, and you and your team have done an amazing job. We've seen the growth of dual enrollment over just the last couple of years, especially. But these last couple of programs that have one that's already passed through this committee and our board, I guess earlier this year or late last year, we talked about earlier today, where we're using dual enrollment success as a criteria. It just makes common sense, a criteria for whether or not you belong in college and where you should go. And now talking about another very commonsensical application of giving students a choice that, man, they don't want to handicap their ability to get into med school if they got a B on that biology, that dual enrollment. They want to retake that in college and get the A. And that makes a lot of sense. But even though it makes sense, it's common sense, we're innovating here in Louisiana that these don't exist anywhere else. These are great minds here at Regents thinking up different ways to make it better for students, and then hammering out the plan. So thank you for that. Any other questions for Dr. Denley about this program? Oh, yes, Regent Gill.
I would just like to say thank you on behalf of high school students, because while I was pretty mature for my age and was able to do dual enrollment and get a lot of great credit, a lot of people are not. And a friend of mine actually did not have, obviously this modality. And so he had to go in with a C or a D. And if that's the only class you have for said semester, you're starting at a pretty low GPA, and that's going to affect your tops and so many different things. So I'm very thankful that Regents will hopefully approve and move on this, because it's going to benefit a lot of students and hopefully increase those dual enrollment numbers as well.
Great. Any other questions? Regent
Yes.
Aubrey, go ahead.
Were there other options? For example, I recall in undergraduate, you could schedule a course and it would not count for credit. It would be something like audit or something other kind of way, so that this record wouldn't just go away for the student. Would there be other means? I mean, if we're going to do, in my opinion, I'm thinking if a student is going to take the class and go through the full process, how would that experience at least be captured if they get to just erase it and it doesn't exist going further? Are there any other options that could not penalize the student?
Yeah, and so you're really talking to those sort of back office details that I successfully nerded out earlier. And the reality is, yeah, we absolutely are exploring these sort of back office ways in which, as you say, the collegiate grade will not be included in their collegiate record GPA, but would still be recognized as part of that student's learning records. As you say, there is advantage perhaps for as a student is applying to perhaps a selective university or something like that, for them to know, oh no, look, in this semester I took this course, yeah, and that learning that I did will be valuable and perhaps allow them to be more competitive into getting into that. So yeah, it's not an all or nothing kind of situation.
And Regent Aubrey, for the high school student, the course does count for their high school. It's on their GPA, and that's it. It's just their option as to whether. But I agree. And maybe there's a pass-fail option in certain courses where you could at least get credit for passing something. I don't know.
I mean, for their college transcript, because that's basically a university or community college is issuing something to say that they participated. And I mean, some of the universities are counting those credit hours. I mean, they're capturing it in some format. So if the student doesn't get a grade, then how does that institution capture that information? How do they capture that? How did the registrar know?
So as we're operationalizing that, we will certainly take note of that and do everything that we can to make sure that regardless of whether the student's grade is included in their GPA, that we still have record of that learning experience. Absolutely. So that's what the student is choosing. The student is choosing whether or not the credit hours will or won't be included in, because if it's included in their GPA, that's when the credit hours will count. But what Regent Aubrey is suggesting, if I understand, is that regardless of whether those credit hours are included, that there would still be recognition of just like if a student had taken an AP class, that course is still part of their learning record. That's right.
Yes, ma'am.
Isn't dual enrollment noted on the student's high school diploma in transcript?
That's beyond.
That was a question for this morning. I realized. I think the high schools recognize if they participate in dual enrollment?
Yeah, so it'll certainly be included there. And then I think the question is whether we can notate it on the collegiate transcript. And we'll
A
investigate.
C or a D in a collegiate level math, that the withdrawal date, which is applicable on the university calendar. And often I have had a few experiences where high schoolers didn't realize, and they think they can drop the class or switch to another class. The university withdrawal or drop date has already passed. And maybe the high school didn't inform the students of that. They have to continue with the class, take the grade. And, you don't want to enter LSU with a C in college algebra.
I understand that part. I definitely understand, and I'm very sensitive to it. But the finance, I talked to a VP for finance at an institution, and he's trying to capture and quantify how he's, a professor, or sometimes they're hired by the school district. Sometimes the university, have people moonlighting teaching. So if they're not granting credit hours, how does it make money sense on their side? Because we don't have special appropriation, the universities, and they're varying costs from the delivery. So I was just trying to capture, while whether it's pass, fail, or audit, or whatever the participation, at least something that you can know that student at this high school did participate and has some collegiate experience.
Well noted. Thank you. Thank you.
Great. Anything you got? Any other questions? All right, you've heard the motion. You've heard the rec staff recommendation. Is there a motion to approve? So move, Regent Creed, a second from Regent Finley. Any other discussion or questions? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, say nay. The motion passes. Is there any other business come before the committee?
There is not. Thank you, sir.
All right. Is there a motion to adjourn? All right, Regent Finley, a second. All right, Regent Creed, any objection? Hearing none, we are adjourned. Now moving, I'll thank myself for doing a great job with that one. And now moving on to the sponsored initiatives and committee meeting. Regent Finley, please call your committee to order.
Thank you.
Call the roll.
Yes. Chair Finley, Vice Chair May, Regent Aubrey, Regent Seal, Regent Solomon. You have a quorum.
Thank you. Ms. Robinson, we're going to move on to the consent agenda. That's item 3. Will you please proceed?
Yes, ma'am. We have one item and 2 actions on the consent agenda. These are approvals of appointment of endowed chairholders without a national search, one at Tulane University and one at LSU Health Sciences Center in New Orleans. We are recommending approval of these appointments. They have been reviewed and determined to be compliant with policy. We will, though, convene our advisory committees to the support fund over the summer to talk about policy provisions around these kinds of waivers, to ensure that endowments continue to meet our program goals, that these endowments build campus capacity and build campus profile and don't simply maintain. So we do recommend approval of these, but please keep in mind that we are having ongoing discussions about how to frame these waivers going forward.
Members of the committee, Ms. Robinson and staff recommend approval of this consent agenda item. Is there a motion? So motion by Regent Seal and a second by Regent May. Is there any discussion? Any questions?
Yes.
Regent Pryor?
Who are explain that endowed chairperson and why there's not a national search?
There is not a national search because these individuals are in senior faculty positions on their campuses, and the campuses have determined that they are qualified to hold the chair. They would win a national search, would one be conducted. And so rather than go through the process of holding a national search, they're simply asking to make the appointments internally.
What about that was at Tulane and one
That's
at
at
LSU
both.
Health Science Center?
That's at both.
Can you describe the one at LSU Health Science Center? I know they had some controversy last year about nepotism or something.
Right. The one at LSU Health Sciences Center is an endowed chair in nursing, and the holder is an associate professor in nursing who holds administrative positions in the College of Nursing and is recommended based on her service to the institution and her national reputation.
If they had done a national search, what would that have entailed?
The national search entails, it depends on the position, but sometimes it can entail hiring a search firm to seek out appropriate candidates, bringing in candidates from across multiple states, from multiple regions, and having a search committee that's comprised of people internal to the institution, as well as sometimes donor representatives can serve on these search committees. People internal and external to the discipline serve on these search committees. One of the reasons that you see some of these requests to proceed without a national search is the expense of running a national search and the time that's associated with that. Sometimes a national search can take 1 to 2 and more years to find an appropriate candidate who is willing to accept the position.
Is it common to skip the national search on these?
This is why we want to convene our advisory committees. It has become more common. I have looked at the numbers and we filled about 75 endowed chairs without a national search of 324 matched by the support fund statewide. We've filled about 75 of those without a national search by bringing them to this body to approve. That is a fairly high number. This has only been a policy in place since 2017. So that's a high number given that we've only been doing this for a limited number of years. And we want to look at this practice and see what effect it's having on the programmatic goals of the Endowed Chairs program.
Last question. Who is making the determination that a national search is not needed?
The institutions make the determination that they have an internal candidate they would like to appoint. They send us the information on that internal candidate, including a recommendation and a curriculum vitae we send out to external evaluators who review our Endowed Chairs program to look at the materials and determine whether that individual meets the standards objectively of our Endowed Chairs program, which are set forth in our policies. And they make a recommendation to the senior team. The senior team makes the recommendation to you.
Determination was made at whoever that was at LSU Health Science Center of New Orleans was the best candidate, even if they did a national search.
It's not the best candidate. That is an indication made by the institution. It is that they are qualified. We have a list of qualifications that an endowed chair holder must meet in our policy. And so they review the qualifications to ensure that there is no loss of quality by an internal appointment. Our external evaluators look at the internal appointment and review for no lack of quality in terms of our requirements. But they couldn't possibly say, because there is no applicant pool, they couldn't possibly say this is the best person. All they can say is this person checks all the boxes.
And whoever that was at LSU Health Science Center, you're fine that it wasn't some inside connection or nepotism or any of that other stuff that they were doing?
No, sir.
Yes.
The standards are set in board policy, and the policies have typically been, they're developed through our advisory committees and through the staff of the support fund and brought to this board for approval.
So the result of that has been we have approved a large number of things that may be exceptions to.
There have been a large number of requests for exemption from the national search. Yes, sir.
The reason I ask the question is because I'm familiar with the process at Southern, and over the years, we've had many endowed positions approved by this body. And in most instances in having national searches, we've not been able to find people who were willing to take those. And at least in a couple of instances I'm familiar with, where we had actually endowed chairs, I understand, we could not fill them and found ourselves trying to break that down into endowed professorships or the chairs.
Yes, sir.
And the flexibility needs to be reviewed on the part of the university systems as well as this board.
Yes, sir. So the policy was expanded in 2017 to include a process for requesting a waiver of the national search. So that is currently in policy, and we did several state meetings around the state of both foundations and campus personnel to inform them of the changes to the policy. So that is an option available to all campuses in policy to request a waiver of the national search, as well as to request to either assemble professorships into a chair or reduce a chair into multiple professorships.
Last comment is that when I look into why so many applicants did not apply, or they applied but would not take the positions, because the cost of this was high and the remuneration was not very accommodating. In other words, we're competing with other national institutions that pay far more money for those positions, and it leaves us in the dark down here.
This is a problem that we will engage this board on. We've done a study of our endowment programs that are matched through the support fund. And one of the findings of that study is that at $1 million and $100,000, our faculty endowments are far, far, far below national average. Our state to the west, Texas, has $7, $8, $9 million chairs. You cannot compete for a faculty member. Even if the salaries are commensurate, it's very difficult to compete for a faculty member who's qualified to hold an endowed position when you are looking at $1 million chair that might be producing 5% per year, and that those funds may or may not be discretionary to the chairholder. They may or may not be salary supplement to the chairholder when you're competing against Texas Tech with a $7 million chair in engineering.
Back into looking for people within our institutions. And sometimes it's difficult to pair those qualifications with the ones that are set by this board as opposed to those people who are applying. There needs to be a greater balance. And I'm just suggesting that we ought to review all of that and reevaluate to see if we're going in the right direction.
That's what we're proposing to do. Yes, sir.
Are there any additional questions? Just for clarification purpose, Ms. Robinson, based on what Regent Pryor said, with his questions, what I'm hearing you say is, so if an institution recommends a waiver or requests a waiver, that is not an automatic. It has to go through your committee first and get an approval, and then come to this committee to get an approval.
That's correct.
Are there any questions based on my comments and Ms. Robinson's response? Okay. We have a motion and a second based on the staff's recommendation. All in favor signify by saying aye. Any opposed, say nay. Hearing none, the motion carries. We'll now move to item number 4, the Louisiana Cybersecurity Talent Initiatives and Fund Awards. Ms. Robinson, you can proceed.
Yes, ma'am. The Louisiana Cybersecurity Talent Initiative Fund we discussed at the April meeting. It is a fund that's established by the legislature. In fiscal year 23, there was $1 million placed in the fund to support academic programs to help train up our cybersecurity talent to take jobs in the Louisiana workforce. As we noted at the April meeting, we run this program competitively, and it is reviewed by the Cybersecurity Education Advisory Council. And that advisory council conducted its review in May and selected these 7 institutions to share the $1 million in competitive funding that was provided through the legislature. So you'll see there are 7 institutions recommended for funding. There were 3 institutions that could not be funded with the level of funding available, though the council noted that all applications were excellent and were deserving of funding if we had additional monies available.
Members, are there any questions for Ms. Robinson regarding the Louisiana Cybersecurity Talent Initiative Fund Awards? This was provided as informational only, so there is no vote required. Anything else, Ms. Robinson?
No, ma'am.
Go ahead. Ms. Regent Aubrey.
Cybersecurity is a great area for institutions who certainly need the talent in that area. Just to clarify, was this funded for next year's budget? And if so, was it at this level?
Funded next year's budget at the same level, additional $1 million.
Any additional questions or discussion? Seeing none, is there a motion to adjourn? Moved by Regent Aubrey. Is there a second? Second by Regent Pryor. All in favor say aye. Any opposed, say nay. No opposition to that motion, and it passes. We're adjourned.
We'll go ahead and call a statewide program committee meeting to order. Roberson, will you call the roll when you get settled?
Yes, sir. Regent Meir.
Present.
Regent Pryor. Regent Aubrey. Regent Ewing. Regent Finley. Regent Weil. Regent Williams-Brown. You have a quorum.
Thank you. Our first action item is number 3, the consent agenda. Dr. Boutte, the floor is yours.
Yes, members, you have a consent agenda item, which is final rulemaking. This is to add the mental health exception as a disability subtype. For your information, you've already approved this for rulemaking. This exception has already been available. We are simply breaking it out as its own subtype so that we can provide you with statistics on the frequency of occurrence. The next exception is for the regular exceptions that you're accustomed to. This is those that require students to be able to maintain continuous full-time enrollment and to earn the required hours. And the LOSFA Advisory Board has reviewed all of these cases and they recommend approval of all.
Thank you, Dr. Boutte. Members, you've heard the recommendation of the LOSFA Advisory Board. Is there a motion to approve the consent agenda? We have a motion and a second to approve the consent agenda. Any discussion or questions? All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposition? Ayes have it. We'll move on to the LumCon update, which is number 4, and we'll turn it over to Dr. Brian Roberts.
Thank you. I'm very thankful to have the opportunity to speak with you all and give you an update on what's been going on at LumCon. Last time I was in front of you was when you approved my appointment in January. So it's nice to be able to have an opportunity to tell you what we've been up to. So just for those of you that aren't as familiar with LumCon, I just wanted to go over briefly a little bit about what we are and the role that we play in the state. So our mission is to promote, facilitate, and conduct research and education collaborations among Louisiana's universities in marine and coastal sciences relevant to the sustainability of coastal and marine environments of the Gulf of Mexico. And our vision is that our coasts and oceans revitalized through innovation, collaboration, and community action. We think about these things in terms of 3 taglines. Connect, meaning that we enhance research collaboration exchange by linking the consortium through stronger partnerships. We enrich by giving back to the community through education outreach initiatives. And we transform by impacting science and conservation in meaningful and profound ways. So we are a physical entity. We have our Marine Center down in Cocodrie, and I'll tell you a little bit briefly about our expansion to our campus in Houma. But we also represent this consortium, which is really, really unique and I think incredibly powerful. And so that consists of LumCon, our Marine Center, our resources and our programs, but also consists of all of our university systems. So all the campuses of the LSU system, the Southern University system, the University of Louisiana system, the Community and Technical College system, as well as, which makes our state very unique, is that our consortium also includes the private colleges and universities, which allows us to have a much broader reach than you might have in other states. And so one of the things that I wanted to do early on, and with the help and support of the Board of Regents staff, and as well as CPRA in hosting us, along with the LSU Center for Coastal Studies, we held the first in a very long time State of the LumCon Consortium meeting in Baton Rouge back in March. And here's a picture that Carrie took from the other side above the river model, for those of you who have seen it. We actually were able to get 32 different consortium member institutions present at that meeting, and all of the systems were represented. And I think this is the first step in what I hope will be a regular gathering of the consortium member institutions to try to figure out what it is that we can do to leverage our individual strengths to become a much greater and stronger system, to not just worry about, I mean, we've done great things and it's amazing how much money is going to higher education in our state internally. What we want to be doing is positioning ourselves to bring in those federal dollars to actually help out the overall system. And so our plan is to be able to do 2 meetings a year. One of them will be in person and one of them virtual. So as you all know, LumCon is a program of the Board of Regents. And the way I view it is that we have 5 main components of LumCon to achieve our overall mission. So we have all the unique facilities and resources that we have. We have our research and science programs, We have our education and outreach programs. We have our vessels and dive operations. And then the Barataria-Terrebonne National Estuary Program falls underneath our umbrella. And we've been really trying to build and strengthen the collaborations that we have with the great work that's being done by that organization. And you guys all approved right before the end of the year a reorganization at LumCon to help us sort of align with what we think these components are. So just recently this spring, we've hired our first ever Deputy Director, Chief Operating Officer, Donna Lottinger, who's been doing a great job over the last, it seems like it's like 3 months, but it's really only been about a month. I'm sure it probably seems even longer for her. But it's been a great thing to be able to allow me to have some of that day-to-day admin and operations get assisted by her so we can think about these big picture moving forward. So a couple other things I want to update you on. When I spoke shortly after becoming interim, I was talking a lot about the significant impacts to the Marine Center in Cocodrie after Hurricane Ida. These are some of the images that I showed you. It's obviously greatly restricted our activities and usage for an extended period of time. Despite that, we were still able to have a productive and successful summer last year, despite the challenges and limitations. But at this point, virtually all the repairs are completed. We have a really full summer of activities already going on. We have actually one of our K-12 camps, lead camp, is on site this week with about 10 high school students in residence, as well as our STEM prep program, which we started last year, geared towards earlier stage undergraduates and community college students, as well as the NSF RU site program that I've been the director of since we got our first award back in 2011. Wow, that's a long time. Last summer, we also started a graduate student in residence program where we have a student from Texas A&M who is on site. And we have really back to full usage since the first time since before the pandemic. We are, thanks to the support in terms of deferred maintenance, seeing significant repairs and upgrades at the Marine Center in Cocodrie. These are photos taken earlier this month of the roof replacement project of the main building and the maintenance buildings. We're also in the process of repairing our upstairs wet lab facility floor and replacing our septic tank through the support of deferred maintenance. Some of the most exciting things that are happening is the expansion of LumCon into the Houma Maritime campus, which is shared with the community college system. Earlier, we were talking about the working on the Maritime Task Force, which I co-chair with Chancellor Strickland of Fletcher, looking at this overall campus and how we can expand maritime activities and education programs. It's been great seeing the partnership with the community college system. Our first building there, which has been termed Blue Works, is opening this summer. We're getting very, very close to having the building completed after all the delays with Ida and other just construction delays with the pandemic and supply chain, all of that. We're getting a new boat slip and bulkheading for anticipation of the research class research vessel having as one of the dual home ports. Those bids are actually out now. They're due back early July. And then the next phase is the development, the building of a Marine Operations Center, which we've already done the site surcharge, and we're hoping to have that completed next year as well. And then we're hoping to be able to extend the bulkheading along the entire property. This is what the building looked like a few weeks ago. So it's a pretty striking building, which when you look through it, you can look right through and you'll be able to see the boat slip. And when the boat's docked there, you'll be able to see that. The furniture is scheduled to be delivered here in these next couple of weeks. So we will be notifying you when we're able to have the grand opening of the facility. It'll take us a little while to kind of get everything in there, but my anticipation is by late summer, early fall, we'll be fully operational there. One of the reasons why we have this expansion in the campus is the National Science Foundation research class research vessels. The Gilbert R. Mason is the third one of these that's going to come off the line. These are all being built in Houma. These are much larger ships than Louisiana has ever had in terms of their research fleet, about just under 200 feet. We're really excited about this. This is a nice collaboration across the Gulf Coast. We're going to be operating the vessel with the University of Southern Mississippi leading the technical operations on board. And then the last bit of expansion to our vessel fleet is actually the replacement of the RV Pelican, which is approaching its 40-year end of life. We have money that is, the design has been completed, and the requests for qualifications for the build will go out this summer. We anticipate this to have a 2-year build time, so that should come online sometime in 2025, right in time for the 40th anniversary of the main Pelican. The last bit of news I want to share with you is that Louisiana is getting a National Estuarine Research Reserve, or NER. This is a network of protective areas representing all the biogeographic regions and estuarine types in the United States. You notice on this map of blue that there is one coastal state that's been missing. That is Louisiana. And thankfully, we're actually going to fill that gap. This is a state-federal partnership with NOAA. As I mentioned, we're the last coastal state to get one. It's going to be located in the Atchafalaya Basin. And this morning, when you guys were meeting across the hall, I was actually down at the CPRA board meeting for the official announcement that LUMCON has been chosen as a state agency to manage the NER. So we're very excited about this. You know, and I want to thank Dr. Reed, in particular, the entire Board of Regents staff and their support in positioning ourselves to be able to be successful at being the state agency chosen by the governor to manage this great new expansion to a high-profile research reserve in Louisiana and the Atchafalaya Basin. One of the things that really, I think, makes us well-positioned for this is the fact that we are this consortium where we bring together the expertise of all the universities in the state, as well as our partnerships with other agencies throughout. And so we're really excited about this. And I think it's a great way for us to expand our footprint and to help serve the state in an important capacity. So I showed you earlier what I thought were the 5 main arms and pillars of LUMCON. As of today, we can say that there will be a 6th, and that is the LA NER that will be based in the Atchafalaya Basin. And so with that, I'll take any questions you might have. Thank you very much.
Are there any questions of the committee?
Focus of the Atchafalaya Basin from the standpoint of your work?
In terms of the NER itself?
Yes.
Or,
Why,
okay.
why is that particular
so
area an important resource to work in?
Well, so when you look at that national network of sites, one of the things that you see is that while there are estuaries all around the country, one of the things that is really lacking is a focus on a very large river delta. We have pretty much the biggest one around, right? And so it makes a really unique sort of end member. And I think in short order, it's probably going to become one of the highlights of the entire system. And the way I look at the Atchafalaya Basin is that it's this great sort of mini system of all of Louisiana. All of the habitats that you find within Louisiana are found within the Atchafalaya Basin. And so it's not only a model for how Louisiana has formed, it's also a model for how river deltas around the world form. You have the Wax Lake Delta, which has been allowed to sort of develop as a delta that's not being manipulated itself, which makes it this great model that people use for how deltas form. And so I think it's a really unique environment. You know, we've got the large swamp of the Atchafalaya up above, and you lead down into this dramatic estuary that connects directly to the Gulf of Mexico. So I think it's a really great opportunity to highlight what's unique about Louisiana, and it provides tremendous opportunities for partnerships. The state is investing a lot in the Atchafalaya Basin itself in terms of programs that are focused more upstream within the watershed. And this is going to focus more on the estuarine end. And so it provides a lot of opportunities for our state to leverage that capacity to try to get more national attention. So I think in terms of a unique environment, it's a fantastic one for us to look at. And the amount of community support that is present within that basin is overwhelming. I know I'm trying to keep this very short, but I will say that when I led the proposal team for Chafalaya Basin, when we were in the site selection process, and I gave town halls throughout the basin, and I gave one in Morgan City. And this was really when we're just starting to lift some of the restrictions from the pandemic. You know, the room was planned for about 100 people in there, and we ended up pulling in chairs, and we had 250 people on site, and we had another 150 people online. And it was supposed to run for an hour and a half, and I had people there keeping me for almost 3 hours because of the enthusiasm of this community in Morgan City and the surrounding areas. And so I think it's really great for that community. It also is really uniquely situated within the state, where it's bracketed by a lot of our universities that are all within the extended part of the watershed. And so I think the opportunities for collaboration amongst our universities is really, really high. And that's one of the reasons why I think that LumCon is in a great position to be the managing agency, because of the fact that we can bring all of these partners together.
I'm glad I asked that question.
Yeah.
So I'm a little passionate about it, just a little.
Thank you, Regency. Any other questions for Dr. Roberts? Dr. Roberts, hearing none, I want to congratulate you for today's announcement for LumCon managing the NER, and also thank you for the update of what's going on down the bayou. So,
thank you very much.
Is there a motion to adjourn the statewide programs committee? I have a motion by Regent Finley, a second by Regent Aubrey. Any questions on Reading? All in favor say aye. Any oppositions? Ayes have it. We're moving on.
All right, thank you so much. Next up, the Planning, Research, and Performance Committee, Regent Williams-Brown. The floor is yours.
I'd like to call the Planning, Research, and Performance Committee to order. Are you ready?
We are.
Call the roll.
Regent Williams-Brown.
Here.
Regent Pryor.
Here.
Regent Creed.
Here.
Regent Finley.
Here.
Regent Sterling. Regent Weil. Regent Gill. We have a quorum.
Thank you, Courtney. We will now move to item 3, consent agenda.
All right, we have 2 items on the consent agenda today. The first up is academic licensure. On that portion, we have 2 initial applications for licensure from Concordia University Irvine and University of the Pacific. Both institutions are private institutions with the main campus in California. They'll provide online education with in-person clinicals and practicums for Louisiana students. We have 4 renewal applications: DeVry University, Edward Via College of Osteopathic Medicine, Pepperdine University, and University of Massachusetts Global. We also today have a conditional license application. As these are a little bit rare, I'm going to explain the process for this. John Melvin University is in Crawley, Louisiana, and they have a religious exemption. They also are allowed to, if they decide to offer academic programs, apply for a conditional license while they are pursuing accreditation. Conditional license is good for 3 years. They will have to report annually on benchmarks and recommendations, both from staff and outside consultant. And if the benchmarks are not met, this board can decide to revoke that conditional license. After 3 years, they will have to be accepted by their chosen accrediting body as an official candidate, and then they will have 2 years and that candidacy to become officially accredited. The outside consultant has reviewed the application and states that JMU is reasonably prepared to become an accredited at this time. The second consent agenda is the recommendations from the Proprietary Commission. They recommend approval of an initial license of Cooper's Defensive Driving in Violent, Louisiana, and then also 20 renewal applications for proprietary schools. Senior staff recommends approval of the items on the consent agenda.
Thank you. Members, are there any questions? Your first recommendation, is there a motion to approve the consent agenda item? Any discussion, any questions? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion passes. The Is there any other business to come before the planning and zoning summits committee? Hearing none, is there a motion to adjourn? Second. Motion, seconded, any discussion? Any further questions? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion passes. We are adjourned.
All right, that's the end of our committees. Thank y'all so much. Oh, thank y'all so much. We're gonna jump right into the Board of Regents meeting, which should be pretty quick. I'm gonna call the June Board of Regents meeting to order. Members, you remember we're being streamed live, so use your microphones. Miss Doreen, can you take the roll, please? Good afternoon.
Regent Davy.
Here.
Regent Creed.
Here.
Regent Aubrey. Regent Ewing, not here. Regent Finley. Regent Gill.
Here.
Regent Levy. Stepped out. Regent May. Regent Meir. Stepped out. Regent Pryor. Regent Seal. Regent Solomon, absent. Regent Sterling. Regent Temple, absent. Regent Weil. Regent Williams Brown. You have a quorum.
Thank you so much, Doreen. Next up for public comments. Are there any public comments?
No.
All righty. And we can ask again in other business at the end. Regents, you received a copy of the April 26, 2023 meeting minutes. Do I have a motion to approve those minutes? Moved by Regent Finley and a second by Regent Seal. Any discussion or questions? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. Motion passes. We now move on to the chair's comments. Collis, please. Oh, no.
You start, you.
All right. I guess I'll talk. Members of the Board of Regents had a few important events since we last met. On April 28th, we hosted the Untapped Talent Summit, which was aimed at spreading awareness of the value of our justice-involved individuals. Oh, I like justice. And how this untapped population can bring their talents to local businesses and industries. The event also provided a unique opportunity for organizations, businesses, and recruiters to connect with untapped talent and explore avenues for collaboration and employment. The discussions focus on dismantling barriers, implementing inclusive policies, and creating opportunities for all. So kudos to the Regent staff, the Department of Corrections, and all other partners for putting on an amazing event. Anything else for that? Nope, we're good. All right, we'll move on. Another great event hosted by Regents was the LEHEC Annual Professional Development Summit on May 24th. Last month was Mental Health Awareness Month, and we know that mental health is an integral part of overall wellness of our students. A study by the Lumina Foundation found that 55% of students who considered stopping outside emotional, students who considered stepping out of school.
Stopping out of school.
Stopping out of school. Okay, that's what we're thinking. Because they're stopping out of school, cited emotional stress as a main factor for leaving. I'm familiar with stopping out of school. You stop out of it? That's the thing?
That's a thing.
Oh, man, I'm old.
It's a young thing.
Maybe you step out of school, you back out of school, stop out of school. Okay.
Said it was a young thing.
At the summit, Commissioner Reed announced in conjunction with the Department of Health that $16.6 million we provided to our public post-secondary institutions to support our students, our student populations, and mental health initiatives. These resources will be vital to the success of our students to see that they continue to prosper. Great work. The collaboration between K-12 and higher education was on full display this spring as well in so many ways, from dual enrollment to teacher preparation. Regents was proud to honor our state's future educators on National Teacher Appreciation Day this year at the Old Governor's Mansion. Public and private universities from across the state nominated teacher preparation candidates to be recognized during the event, where Governor John Bel Edwards and Teacher of the Year Brittany Bonifons shared words of support and inspiration. There were 44 future educators, including 5 amazing high school students who were so proud to be recognized as well. Congratulations to our staff and all of their excellent work. Members, that concludes my very personal report and these great pictures up here. All right, I'm going to the reports and recommendations of standing committees. Next, we'll vote on the committee reports and recommendations together. However, if any board member wishes to take up any of the committee reports separately, please let me know and we can consider them individually. Otherwise, we do them all at once. Is there anyone who wishes to take up any committee report separately? All right, hearing none, do I have a motion to approve all committee recommendations from today's committee meetings in globo? Regent Weil and Regent Green seconded. Any discussion or other questions about all these committee reports we just went through and recommendations? Okay, all those in favor of approving the committee recommendations in globo signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay. Hearing none, the motion passes. Now onto the reports and recommendations by the Commissioner of Higher Education, Dr. Kim Hunter-Reed.
Thank you so much, Mr. Acting Chair, members of the board. Delighted.
Chair. Wait, come on. Mr.
Oh,
Chair.
sorry. Mr. Chair, Mr. Chair. Sorry about it. I'm reading the script. That's what it says. All right. So I want to start off with Kobe Hebert. Kobe is our governor's fellow for the summer. He is the SGA president at McNeese, political science major, a senior. And so McNeese, UL Lafayette. Sorry.
We have two of them.
Two of
I'm
them.
in for a promotion if I'm at
McNeese, UL
McNeese.
Lafayette.
That's
I know Dr. Savoy is watching, so he's going to send me a nasty text to get that right. Raging Cajuns. So Kobe, welcome. We're so happy to have you if you want to say a few words.
Yes, thank you so much for the opportunity. And I just want to say, thanks for the promotion. I guess I'm the new student board member. My name is Cole Baybear, like Dr. Reed mentioned. I'm the student body president at UL Lafayette. I am a first-generation college student. I think that's important to mention just because it's an important lens through which I, understand a lot of these conversations and the discussion that's going on today in the context of higher education. I first just want to thank Dr. Reed. I think I've met the most generous person in my life, the most just dedicated. She's absolutely incredible. And so it's only been about 2.5 weeks that I've been with the Board of Regents and her, and I've got an entire summer left. And so I'm excited to just be under her tutelage and just get to be in the room and experience what it's really like to be committed to serving these students in Louisiana. And not just Dr. Reed, but every single person that I've had the opportunity to meet at the Board of Regents are incredibly talented and just committed. And every single one of them are just so incredibly kind. So it does mean the world as someone who this is a very new experience to, and someone who, is for every new thing is the first thing for not only me, but my family. And we're trying to understand what even is college. And so I want to thank everybody so much. I was at the UL system before this experience for about 7 months or so. Working there. And so higher education is something that I understand has the opportunity to change generational patterns. This is something that's incredibly important to me. And so I just wanted to thank each and every one of the board members, commitment to serving the hundreds of thousands of students that we have here in Louisiana. And I just wanted to remind you that the decisions you make every single day and, throughout the year, they really do have an impact on students like me and across the entire state. And I couldn't be more thankful for this opportunity. And that's all I just really wanted to say thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Kobe. Just delighted to have Kobe with us. We always vie every year to get a governor's fellow. All the departments and agencies want one. We always get one. So we're excited about that. Kobe will be convening the other governor's fellows at the end of this month for a roundtable conversation on the policy topic they want to discuss. I'm also very excited at the end of his fellowship. I've been asked to address the congressional staffers for their retreat, and Colby's going to come with me so they can hear from a first-generation Louisiana student. So that's going to be great. So Colby, delighted to have you with us.
And great job, Colby. I just want to recognize that Katie Anna is dominating today.
Tell you
We
what.
got Holly Bofi running The Bessie. I was acting chair today. We have a Phil Plation who's come and joined our board, and now we've got a Lafayette person. I'm liking this.
And we're not even going to mention how much money you got in the budget for UL Lafayette. And we're not even going to mention it.
Well, we might have had the president of the Senate and the guy
Right.
in the House with all the money. So that's a good place to be.
All right. So we know it's all about the students, right? And it's all about commencement. So I will say that I had a wonderful opportunity to be commencement speaker for the Louisiana School for Math, Science, and the Arts. And you see the photo here with Marcus Jones and also Principal Steve Horton. So excited to say that out of the 103 graduates, most of them, 60% of them are attending college in Louisiana. Lots of talent there. And 35 of those students graduated high school with their associate degree. So very, very pleased with that. And then I went to Fletcher Technical Community College for their commencement to see all the joy that is. You see there, Christine Strickland hugging one of the graduates of all ages and backgrounds, and just so much excitement and so much joy. So just wonderful to have that opportunity. The next slide, thanks to Regent Aubrey for also serving as commencement speaker. He was at Bossier Parish Community College, inspiring the students there and talking about the importance of their journey and investing in yourself and education. And so again, just such an exciting time to support and congratulate the 40,000 plus students that we graduate each and every year. Next slide, I want to thank Regent Creed for joining me for travels in Grambling State University. We did the radio show with President Gallo. We toured. We went to Lincoln Prep and just had such a great experience. We visited the library. Just such a great experience. As you know, just some passionate leaders in that community. President Gallo is doing a phenomenal job. And again, we just really had such a great experience there. I don't know, Regent Creed, if you want to share anything about the visit or your observations there.
Well, it was really an interesting day. We had a great time with President Gallo. I was encouraged. I'm optimistic that the library is going to be put together without involving the sureties and the insurance companies, hopefully short of litigation. We did get a commitment from the contractor, and who said that he's been in business for like 35 years and he's never defaulted on a project, and he was going to make it right. So, and they were doing some really arduous testing. I think sent you a text about what was being done while we were there, and I think they were about to wrap up testing that had been done for about a month prior, right, Commissioner?
Right.
So I think at the end of the day, when we do when the president takes possession of the library, it will be assured it's in good shape. And was really impressed. Is Mr. Ford a doctor or PhD, or Mr. Ford at Lincoln Prep?
No.
He spoke earlier, but
Yeah.
that was a fascinating
Yes.
tour. That school, he's got it firing on all cylinders. He was formerly a B-52 pilot, actually. So I don't know what his educational background is, but he's running a really good, tight ship, and was impressed. He had a class of graduating seniors, all of which, probably about 25, 30 students that were graduating the day before their high school graduation with an associate's degree. So that was quite impressive.
Well, thank you. Yes, he as you all saw, he was he spoke in public comment today at Bessie, and he is one of the institutions that has 100% of their students graduating with dual enrollment experience. And so, for as he stated, a low-income community, a high poverty area, but he's making it happen. And so, really dynamic. So enjoyed that. And then, because you need a little cuteness overload in your life, here are our Regents babies. So these three are our newest. Malin Baker's son, Baker, adorable. Bryson, son of Alicia, and Adeline, who is Hannah's daughter, in her orange baby bib. So, you know, we are about cradle to career, literally. And so here you are. I had to wrap it up with these adorable Regents babies. And then, of course, in the next few months, you will have one more adorable Regents baby up, because Melissa is our next person who is making sure that we have lots of babies and the cuteness around at the Board of Regents. So that concludes my report. But again, thanks to everyone. You know, the session is always challenging and rewarding, but it's a team effort. You can't do it without a big team and a lot of really thoughtful people rowing in the same direction. So I'm grateful for that. That's my report, Mr. Chairman, not acting chairman.
There you go. Thank you so much. Is there any other business to come before the board or any public comments? Hearing none, members, members, remember, reminder, we do not meet in July. I'm sorry. Our next meeting is August 23rd at 9 a.m. and mark your calendars for October 17th, because there might be a field trip to Lafayette for a little half-day retreat, maybe even dinner at my house if it works out well. My wife allows me. Doreen, any public comments? No? Okay. Hearing none, motion adjourned. Second? Any opposed? We are adjourned. Thank you so very much. Oof.